So, story time. I when I was a child, when I was maybe 5 or 6, I was in kindergarten. I was in my kindergarten class, and while I was in there, these people came. I got called to the front office, and they came for me, and they took me away. And they were strangers, and I didn't know who they were. And my mom wasn't around them, and I wasn't scared. I didn't feel scared. I just don't really fear anything. I sometimes I hope and welcome for things to come at me because it will give me an excuse to defend myself. It'll give me an excuse to let out any sort of pent up rage I have. So, because I'm actually a very gentle, nice person. Um, anyway, these strangers came and they took me away, and I remember asking them, where's my mom? And I guess they were from the DSS or whatever. Well, anyway, they took me to this orphanage, and it was awful there. It was just absolutely terrible. Now, this story I'm going to tell you is fragmented in time through my life. So, the life I've lived thus far seems like it's been millions and thousands of years elsewhere. So I go to this orphanage. It was awful. I won't go into detail about what happened in the orphanage. I don't think that the person who was running the orphanage was competent. Um, anyway, my grandmother wanted to try to come get me out of the orphanage, and they wouldn't tell her where I was. Well, fast forward to 2020, I was in this asylum, and my grandma came to get me out, and they wouldn't tell her where I was. It's almost like a repeating loop. But she ended up getting in there anyway. It didn't fucking matter what they said. So she got me out of the orphanage and took me home with her, and they ended up adopting me when I was 16, but I lived with her for years. So before I went to the orphanage, my first day of kindergarten, I went to get on a bus and I met a girl named Maria. And she was this girl from El Salvador, and her parents, they didn't really speak a whole lot of English, but she lived right next door to my grandmother. And I met her and she was really nice, and we headed off, and she instantly just became my best friend. So when I went to the orphanage, I was there for a little while. I came back and I had went into the first grade. Well, I went back into the same school, but it was different. So it was almost like the girl that I knew before, Maria, she was all of a sudden, she was mean. She was bullying me. Everything was different. The kids were bullies. They'd call me Four Eyes. They'd call me a witch. Um, that was a big thing they liked to do, was call me a witch and make fun of me, even though I didn't do anything to them at all. So I all through elementary school I would go to Maria's house, and I would jump on her trampoline. She helped me learn how to ride a bike. We'd play on her tire swing. We'd talk about her family, pretty much everything about her and her family. Her mom would make us weird fucking Spanish food, teach me Spanish words. She liked to impersonate fucking Jack and what's her face from Titanic. Um, and it's just, I have very vivid memories of this all through school. But in school, she would pretend as if she didn't know me or she wasn't associated with me at all. But outside of school, I was her best friend. And you know, I knew pretty much everything about her. Well, when I was maybe, I don't know, like 11, 12 years old, something like that, Maria and her family moved. And they moved to a different house, which I visited her at maybe twice after she moved. But for the most part, because she lived right next door to my grandma and I could just walk around the corner, I usually did that. Well, now we're going to start talking about my dreams that I feel like tie into these real life experiences. Um, when I was 30, maybe like a couple years ago, I had this dream that I was dating this guy and something weird happened to me. Oh, that was weird. Something weird happened to me. And I had a dream that this girl, who I particularly always had a very bad feeling about, But no one, of course, ever listens to me. She was, we were at this school, and I just remember being really happy. I had a lot of friends. I liked a lot of people. They liked me. I was doing well. I was just happy. And I met this girl at the school, and she was alone and kind of run down. Sorry for the background. Weird things are popping and cracking, but that's just the norm for me these days. So, um, this girl was alone, and I approached her and I tried to be her friend. And I was showing her my ring that I'd learned about rocks and things like that, and I was just being nice to her. I wasn't actually mean to her. I didn't do anything to her. I just felt like, oh, she's new. I have friends and she doesn't. Maybe I can just introduce her to my friends and we can all be friends. And my intentions were very good. I just wanted her to feel welcome and safe. Well, fast forward in the dream, it cuts to me going inside of this house, and I was like maybe a little older. And the girl's in there, and several of my friends are in there, and one of them was the guy I was dating, and he was laid up with some other girl that she had put them together, and she started laughing, and she's got all these crystals around her, and she's just like, "Don't you see? Look at me now, bitch," or something like that, just laughing, just taunting me. And I couldn't understand, like why. I couldn't understand why, because I was nothing but nice to her. And she had did something to me. I don't remember if I found my parents dead. Something happened to me. And that part is really blurry. It's kind of cut out from the dream, but something terrible happened before I went into the house and saw her like flaunting everything and taunting me. And I knew she had done something. I didn't know what. She'd done something to people or did something to my parents. Anyway, I walk out of the house, and it's like this development that's gated. And I run across the street into another house, and I thought it was abandoned, and I just wanted to hide like a cave. And I'm hiding and crying. Well, it turns out this married couple lives there, and I didn't know. I was just trying to run away because what I found, I don't know if I found my parents dead, then I walked in there to tell someone, and no one would listen, and everyone was just mad and laughing at me and like just mean, just fucking cruel. And I couldn't, like, in my mind, I couldn't grasp like why that was happening. And so I ran again, like, out of this married couple's house, out of this gate of the developments. And that's the first part of the story, because I need to take a second to collect my thoughts.